the topic. So what we will do is, Prabhuji, I thought we will first read, um, some verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then I'll do prayers, and then we can start. The So the chapter, I think, let me see if I have the ability to share my screen. Share, yeah. So we need two volunteers, 7 verses each. Um, Manjari Gopi Mataji and Nupur Mataji. So you can start, any one of you can start, maybe Nupur, you can start the first 7 verses, and then Manjari Gopi Mataji can do the next 7 verses.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Lord Rishabdev told his sons, "My dear boy, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stew. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders. Nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance, be it sinful or pious. Karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudev, one who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he's mad if he doesn't know and if he doesn't understand the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interest around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse, and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
The
you can read.
attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female. One becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his material attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world. O my sons, you should you should accept the highly elevated Paramhams, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically, inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant, chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means, you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire of, for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. Very well.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मीलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मीलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशचारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम हरे हरे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Give me 1 second, Prabhu. Yes. So today I'm going to be talking about the topic of sense control. And obviously this is a very elevated topic and a very difficult topic for me the more effort I put in, the more I realized how completely unqualified I was to talk about this topic. But in the spirit of service, because Jagannath Gopal Prabhu had asked, I'll continue to speak on this topic. And so, so first we will cover, we did this the week before last. Manjari Gopi Mataji did the quality for my Vaishnava is to be meek. We also heard the last week we heard from Lekha Mataji the quality of Vaishnava is to be steady, and then this topic was given to me, which was the control of senses, and this is an extremely difficult topic, and I focused on the concept of sense gratification. I haven't focused as much on sense control. So, they're just mirror images of each other. I think they're just both sides of the same coin. So, and then we can discuss if we get time, if we can discuss more about sense control itself. So, of all the exalted devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I chose Maharaj Rishabdev for this quality. His instructions to his 100 sons are extremely nice instructions to us. And it was also very special for me because today happens to be the birthday of my father. He left this material world um, 13 years ago, in 2013. And on his birthday, particularly, I always think about him. So, so this was Canto 5, Chapter 5, and we read the first 14 verses. Actually, the entire chapter is very, very powerful. If you get a chance, you should just read it. Srila Prabhupada has been very, very generous in his translations. You don't even have to read the purports, just the translations are so powerful. And so I'll start with the Prabhupada story. So we've all heard the story in different talks. Once Prabhupada was walking on a morning walk on the boardwalk at Venice Beach. Venice Beach, as we all know, is in LA. And he was walking with a bunch of his disciples, and a stunningly beautiful woman passed them. And all the devotees, all the disciples, they all tried to look away and not look at the woman. But one of the disciples, looked at this woman, and Prabhupada noticed him looking at the woman. And of course, I couldn't find any evidence that this was there in any of his letters or something. But I've heard this people mention. So Prabhupada asked him, "So you like the packing?" Um, and so the devotees were a little surprised by the question. And then he went on to explain that the body is nothing but a packaging of bones, blood, marrow, and stool. So Prabhupada even used this opportunity to instruct. So this is exactly what Maharaj Rishabdev was doing. He was instructing his sons. Um, so the essence of his teaching is that the human life is not to be used like how dogs or cats use it just by eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human life is an opportunity to do tapasya and to reawaken our true nature and our true constitutional position. So, so this is the way I thought I'll cover the topic today. You know, um, obviously I'm an engineer, so I try to break down problems. So, what is sense gratification? We'll cover that first. We'll try to define it, and then why do we fall prey to sense gratification? And then we look at why are we not able to break out of sense gratification, and then some of the traditions say that use willpower and use to fight against sense gratification. So we'll look at that, and then we'll look for some solutions from our acharyas in the Shastra and some practical tips for ourselves. So this is what we'll do today. And as always, feel free to stop me at any time. Um, so sense gratification, the definition of sense gratification. So um, Prabhupada says that sense gratification is utilizing our senses only to maintain our body and for its so-called comforts. So when we look only for ourselves, that is sense gratification. On the flip side, um, you know, people talk about sense control and they talk about restricting our senses. And Prabhupada takes a very completely different track here. He says sense control is about using our senses to serve Krishna and not about restricting our senses. And we'll see more about this as we go on. So the trap of material enjoyment is after undergoing several hardships all day, we human beings are try to enjoy ourselves in the night by eating, drinking, having sex, or sleeping. So these are things that animals do as well. And they do this because it gives them temporary material enjoyment. And we are drawn to these things because of our material conditioning. What we don't know is that we are succumbing to this material enjoyment, and it's a trap that these so-called comforts have set for us. And this is the trap of Maya. And this trap will lead us into continuing this life of birth, old age, disease, and death. So we always have, two choices at any point of time. So Radhanath Maharaj says that we have the path of liberation. Actually, this is in Prabhupada's purports. We have the choice of the path of liberation on one direction, and then we have the path to the hellish condition on the other direction. And so we can choose, and we can go to one of these paths. So the path of liberation is with the association of Mahatmas and the association of devotees, and the path to the hellish condition or the path of bondage is by being attached to sense gratification. So that's the trap that Maya has set for us. It always keeps enticing us to move on this path of sense gratification. So Prabhupada has nicely given us the four regulative principles to help us avoid the sinful activities like illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, because these are sure shot ways to take us to the hellish condition. Our material conditioning will always draw us to these, and the urge will be really strong. And sometimes we cannot even resist it, and we'll go down this path. So sense gratification, when we try to satisfy these senses. So Prabhupada says is that it's like an itch. So when we get an itch, we feel like itching. We feel like itching, and the itching may actually not be good for the itch. If you have a wound or something or a bug bite, it actually may not be good, but we feel the sensation to itch, and the itch actually never goes away. It keeps increasing, but temporarily it feels good. It feels like a relief. It feels like. But the minute we stop itching, the urge to itch comes back. So Prabhupada says that we let the mind overrule our intelligence. We have these two things, the mind and the intelligence. And when we let the mind overrule our intelligence, we'll continue itching. And even though the intelligent thing may be to stop itching. So in chapter 15:7, that's where the mind is actually considered the sixth sense. In Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, Manas Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. So the five senses we all know, but the mind is the sixth sense. That's what Lord Krishna says. And Prabhupada says here that we need only one small redirection of the senses towards Krishna. So we'll explore today in our discussion, we'll explore how this can be done. So in summary, in this, in the definition of sense gratification is to utilize the senses for our own personal comfort. And the opposite of that, and I'm deliberately not using sense control, the opposite of that is to utilize the senses for Krishna's service. So either we can use it for our service, the senses, or we use it for Krishna's service. Those are the two choices we have. So we'll now look into, why we fall prey to sense gratification. So, so the first topic is the forgetfulness of our constitutional position. And in the early days, whenever I would listen to Krishna consciousness lectures, this term constitutional position would always confuse me. And I would like, everybody talks about this so normally. And what is this constitutional position? And only later, I realized that it is about our essential true nature. Our true essential nature is to be eternal servants of Lord Krishna. And we as living entities, we have forgotten this true nature, this true position of ourselves. And it explains everything. It explains quite a few things. It explains the human condition, the material condition that we are in. So we are deluded by material energy, and we start imagining ourselves to be a separate identity. So as we saw in the previous verse, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. And we have existed, as living entities, as jivatmas, we have existed forever. We have existed sanatana for, as the verse says, forever. Similarly, Krishna has also existed forever, obviously, but we are parts and parcel of Krishna. And our true position is to be the servants of Krishna, but we have forgotten this. And because we have forgotten this, we are given this position in this material world, and then we take up a body. We take up a body of either as a man, as a woman, sometimes as animals. Sometimes, after we do a lot of good service, maybe we end up being demigods. But in all these conditions, the one thing is true is that there is a forgetfulness of the Lord. So we have forgotten that the transcendental service of the Lord, which is our true duty in this world. And though, I can understand this conceptually, I've been hearing this for 5, 6 years now, 7 years now. But we are under the influence of material nature. I am under the influence of material nature. And we end up seeing ourselves, I end up seeing myself as an enjoyer. And I forget that Krishna is the true, supreme, original enjoyer. He is the ultimate enjoyer. And even if I do enjoy, it should only be for Krishna's benefit. And that part, I tend to forget. And so till I'm reminded of this, obviously I'm reminded of this a few times a week, thanks to the association of devotees. But the concept doesn't enter my head. It just stays only as words, as understanding. It doesn't seem to sink in. So in one of his talks, Radharan Maharaj says that we have a choice. We have a choice to be to be either subordinate to Maya or to be subordinate to Lord Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada also says the same thing in one of his purports. He says there are two classes of Vaishnavas. So he even puts Vaishnavas in two classes. He says they are either Goshti Anandis or Bhajanandis. Goshti Anandis are those who are, who just like to hang out with other people and gossip. And so essentially the conclusion is that I've drawn for myself is that the temptation of a material enjoyment is very, very powerful, and we will all fall prey to this temptation. But Radhanath Maharaj explains that the only way to escape this is to become subordinate to Lord Krishna. And we'll see this more later. The other reason for why we fall prey to sense gratification, I think the first reason covered everything, but there are other reasons too. If we read the purports, there are other reasons. And Maharaj Rishabdev, in the part that we read, he says that one of the main reasons we fall prey to sense gratification is because we ignore our spiritual values, and we generally get engaged in material activities. We don't inquire about the purpose of life and our true constitutional position. We are usually moving from one problem to another, and Maya is very, very good at keeping us busy and keeping us occupied all the time. It does not, Maya doesn't give us time to think. We seek relief from problems of material life by engaging in whatever gives us immediate relief. And because of this, we are also constantly accumulating desires. And the company that we keep, or the sangha that we keep, determines our desires and our yearnings. So, if we hang out with spiritual people, our desires will be to go to holy places, listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, listen to kirtans and bhajans. And if we hang out with people who are drawn to other things, then that will also shape our desires. So the sangha becomes a really important thing. So I have a very practical example of this. So I used to work in a software company. This is many years ago. I used to work on this software company. And in this software company, the culture was that every salesperson would have a Rolex watch. And as we all know, Rolex watches are extremely expensive. And it was like a symbol of accomplishment. But there would be so much pressure on these salespeople to buy a Rolex watch as soon as they join. So this was a way for the sales organization to put a trap on these salespeople. So these young people, would come and join, and they would take enormous amounts of debt and buy a Rolex. And once they had the Rolex, they would be desperate to make payments. They have to make payments for this Rolex. They're probably paying, half their salary every month for the Rolex. And then they would be desperate to meet their sales quotas. So this was a way for the company to hook them so that they would work day and night and meet all their sales quotas just to pay off the Rolex that they bought, which was really well beyond their reach. So this is the way in which Maya and our sangha trap us. So the third reason for sense gratification is anxiety for our desires. So Prahlad actually explains this in Canto 7, that sense gratification is like a relief to the anxiety of our desires. So the desire for gratification is it's like a thirst. It's like a hunger. It is like, so when the mind contemplates the objects of senses, it is very painful. You know, it happens to me all the time. When I hear the ping of a text coming to me, and the phone may be far away, but I still feel this pain. I feel this desire to go and check my phone, as though something really important is going to come to me. And when we succumb to this sense gratification, there is a temporary enjoyment. And Prahlad explains that it's not really positive enjoyment. It is just a temporary relief from the misery of our wants and our desires. It actually binds us even more. So, why do these desires arise? So, I know all of you know this. Um, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 62 and 63, um, the famous verses, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangaste Upajayate. Krishna says that we are subjected to material desires just by contemplating on objects. Dhyayato, just by contemplation. So if you think about something, when we contemplate an object, it could be anything, something that is pleasing to our material senses, but it just starts with contemplation. This contemplation turns into attachment. We then get a feeling, oh, I should have it. I should really have it. And and that attachment, from that attachment, lust develops. And if the lust is not satisfied, then anger develops in our mind. And we all know that from anger, our mind becomes deluded. And from delusion, there is loss of memory. And we've all heard this all the time. People say, I was so angry that I did not know what I was doing. So that is from the delusion, there is loss of memory is lost, and intelligence is lost. And that's the fall down. Pranasyati. And so what is the harm? What is the harm from sense gratification? I don't know if I created another slide for this. No, maybe I didn't. Yeah. So the harm is that the living entity is originally pure. We are all pure. We have seen this. Even as when we see children, we see how innocent they are and how pure they are. But when we get in contact with the material world, we get influenced by the material world. Our original love for Krishna gets transformed into lust in this material world. So in Prabhupada's purports, he writes about this is how when milk comes in contact with sour tamarind, it becomes yogurt. So this love for Krishna, which has got transformed into lust, this lust is our greatest enemy. Because that lust keeps us entangled in the material world that we are living in. And if we keep enjoying, we will continue to be in this material condition. We will go after one birth to another birth, and then we'll continue on this cycle. So, and the question is, why are we not able to break out of this cycle? Why are we not able to break out of this cycle of sense gratification? We all, theoretically, I know that sense gratification is bad. It could even be a sin. Um, and, we have scratched that itch multiple times. We know that it only feels worse and it doesn't satisfy. Even then, we are not able to fix this easily. And why do we keep getting trapped in this? So we saw the brahmacharis who were walking with Srila Prabhupada at Venice Beach. Now these brahmacharis, they are all taken their vows. They were all disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They wanted to apply Srila Prabhupada's teachings. They, they were sincere and they knew what the right thing to do is. Exactly like us, we also know what the right thing to do is. But that itself is not enough to change our habits because this conditioning is extremely strong. So what we will do now is, we'll explore some strategies. Um, and So willpower is a strategy. Um, you know, Many traditions say that we have to reject things and use willpower to fight sense gratification. And there are examples in our shastras why willpower alone doesn't work, cannot work. So the story um, that Radhanath Maharaj regularly says in his talks is about Vishwamitra Muni. So Vishwamitra Muni was a great sage. He was originally a king, but then he wanted to become a sage and he wanted to outshine Vashishta Muni. And he performed thousands of years of austerities. And he gained immense siddhis through this. And fearing that Vishwamitra Muni's power was was growing very strong, Indra, who was the king of heaven, he sent the celestial nymph Menaka, and Vishwamitra Muni saw her and he was bewitched. He was bewitched by her beauty, and he abandoned all his, thousands of years of penance, and he started to live with her. And so, willpower only will last until the next temptation. Now the question is, now there is another track we can take, which is what modern psychology says sometimes is, don't fight your desires, just satisfy them because they will eventually go away. Or you shouldn't cause suffering to yourself. Um, Now, this is also, as our acharyas, particularly Gaurang Prabhu, in one of his classes, he uses the analogy of the volcano. He says material desires don't get satisfied if you satisfy them. They only increase if you satisfy them. And he uses the example of pouring ghee onto the fire. The fire actually grows even more. So, though we may think that let me just satisfy this desire just once. What we should know is that that's like pouring ghee on the fire, and the desire will just keep growing. The other strategy is to use guilt and shame. This is used in, in quite a few by quite a few of aspirants. People who aspire to be sincere. They use the technique of guilt and shame. And this also doesn't work because um, because this is not our personal failure. It is our Jivatma is pure. Maya is tricky. Maya is designed to be tricky. So even though we do fail once in a while, it's only a temporary failure. So having things like guilt and shame, don't really help. And Radhanath Maharaj says that every time um, we feel like we have advanced, um, our Maya will rear its head again, in a in a different way. So Gaurang Prabhu actually gives a nice example on this, which I really liked and I resonated with. In the Kishkinda Kand, he talks about the agreement between Lord Ram and Sugriva. Uh, so they had an agreement that they would collaborate. This is after Vali had been killed, and Sugriva said that he would go back to his kingdom for the rainy season. And he goes back to his kingdom, and Sugriva completely forgets about Lord Ram, and he completely gets immersed in sense gratification. Um, so Lord Ram waits patiently in the beginning, and then he gets pretty angry, and he sends Lakshmana to give Sugriva a message. So Sugriva goes there. He gives the message to Lakshmana goes there. He gives the message to Sugriva. Sugriva realizes his mistake, and he comes back to Lord Ram. So what we can learn from this is uh, Lord Ram doesn't hold it against Sugriva. Lord Ram continues to allow him to serve. They continue to be really good friends. And the Lord knows that we all need many tries, at this. He is only looking for sincere attempts. He knows that we will fail, and he knows that we will, he wants us to try again and come back. So that's what we can learn from the story of Sugriva. So we'll continue to look for now solutions. We looked at willpower and other solutions and guilt and shame. So some of the solutions are um, there is the illustration of Ramayana. This is explained by Radhanath Maharaj in one of his talks. He says that Lord Ram and Ravan were fighting, and Ram would cut off Ravana's heads one at a time. And I don't know if you have heard this talk by Radhanath Maharaj. He uses sound effects. He says, he cuts off his head. And then, but these heads would come back. They would come back. And then he would cut off his arms, and then they would come back too. So Maharaj says that the demons of lust, anger, pride, and greed are so powerful that even if we try to cut them, they will come back. So only the Supreme Personality can conquer them. So Krishna consciousness is not about fighting the symptoms of the disease.
Exactly.
Krishna consciousness is to cure the root of the cause of the disease. So by letting Krishna into our hearts, we can get rid of these demons once and for all. And Maharaj says that association with devotees and congregational chanting is the only way. This is that's the only solution. So other strategies from our acharyas. So there is another story of Srila Prabhupada where a disciple of his tells him that he's not able to get his mind off a beautiful girl. He keeps thinking about her. And so there's a story of Srila Prabhupada where one of his disciples asks him that he's keeps thinking about this beautiful girl and he's not able to get her off her mind. So Prabhupada supposedly asks him, is she more beautiful than Radha and Krishna? And Prabhupada gives him a solution. Think of Radha and Krishna instead. You cannot stop your mind from desiring beauty, but you must give it a higher beauty to attach itself to. So Radhanath Maharaj says, that only bhakti can conquer this tendency of sense gratification in our mind. And we have to attach ourselves to this higher taste. So Maharaj actually gives us another strategy here. He says we should try and we should restrain our senses from material enjoyment. And simultaneously, he says that we should keep our senses and our mind filled with Krishna conscious activities. And he lists them. He says we should chant Krishna's name, we should hear his glories, we should preach, we should do book distribution, we should get higher degrees and good jobs so that we can earn money for Krishna. We should raise children and expose them to Krishna consciousness. We should help our spouses. We should do our part in society. We should assist in garland making. We should do washing, cleaning, cooking, managing, typing. And Maharaj concludes that if we keep ourselves busy in devotional service, Maya cannot touch us and we'll be immune of Maya. So, so the next point that I wanted to make was we should not suppress, we should redirect, which is what Maharaj also says. We don't need to suppress our senses, we just need to redirect them to Krishna. So we want to explore this a little philosophically. And the attraction to our senses that we feel in the material world is nothing but a perverted reflection of our love for Krishna. So originally, as we were, before we took this material body and we came to the material world, our only duty was love to Krishna, as eternal servants to Krishna. But now that we have moved away from Krishna and we have come to the material world, our senses are still active and our senses are trained to seek. They're seeking something attractive. And they're seeking something attractive in this material world. And the material world is occupied by Maya, and Maya keeps placing attractive things in front of us. And all we have to do is resist our attraction to material things gently and redirect our senses towards things that show our love sincerely for Krishna. So we are trying to reawaken our love for Krishna in this material world. And we are doing this because Krishna actually wants us back. Krishna has given us the ability to love because he wants us back. So it's like a tug of war. So Maya steals our heart from Krishna, but Krishna wants us back and he wants us to go back to him. So if we move in the right direction with devotional service, Krishna will reciprocate and give us a hand, and he will pull us back and he will steal us back from Maya. So this assurance is given in many places in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But one thing that I read today and that I really liked was in Canto 11, Chapter 7, verse 22. Krishna says to Uddhava that in this world there are many kinds of created bodies. Some with one leg, some with two legs, some with 4 legs or more legs, some with no legs at all. But out of all of these, the human form is the dearest to me. So Acharya says that Krishna has given only humans the ability to think and control our mind and to love. He's not given it to any other living thing. So after this verse, Krishna tells Uddhava about the conversation between King Yadu and the Avaduta Brahmana. So this is popularly known as the 24 Gurus. I'll talk through it quickly. There are 24 different gurus, and these are, gurus like earth, tree, um, air, water, fire, Pingala, the prostitute. So Krishna says, the Avaduta Brahman actually says, Krishna is narrating the story, but the Avaduta Brahman is telling King Yadu that from all these are your gurus, and from each of these you can learn. So we'll pick a couple of these, like the python. There's a particular type of python that actually doesn't go out hunting for food. It just sits where it is, and it whatever comes to it, it accepts that as its meal. So in the translations in the purport, Prabhupada says that not Prabhupada actually, Canto 11 was written by his disciples. Um, that whatever food comes to us, whether it is delicious or not tasty, we should accept whatever comes our way. Then the other guru is the moth. This is the moth which, um, this is where the Avaduta Brahman says that you should not be like the moth. In the case of the python, he said that you should be like the python. He says, you should not be like the moth because it gets enticed by fire, and it starts going close to a fire. We've all seen this where moths start flying close to a light bulb because they get attracted by this light. And the translation says he says a fool who cannot control his senses becomes enchanted by material things and falls into hell. Um, then the other instruction is that of an elephant. I'm sure you've heard this, where the elephant, the way they capture an elephant is by enticing it with a female elephant. So they first capture female elephants, and then they entice the male elephant, and the male elephant starts following the female elephant, and then the elephant hunters capture the male elephant. So this is another example of how we can get attached. We get attracted by things in the material world, and we follow the wrong path. Then there is an example of the deer. The deer, they play music or the hunter's flute, and the deer gets attracted to the hunter's flute music, and its ear starts perking up, and otherwise it's very difficult to catch a deer. We all know that. We know that even in the Ramayana, Lord Rama couldn't really capture the deer live, and but the deer actually gets tricked, and the hunter, when he plays some nice songs on a flute, the deer gets attracted, and it and the hunter is able to capture the deer. Then there is the example of the fish, where the where a, where a hook is used and a bait is put on the hook, and then it's used to trap the fish. So similarly, in the translation, it says that an unintelligent person who is victimized by his insatiable tongue will end up losing his life. So we have to also watch our tongue. Srila Rupa Goswami, in the Nectar of Instruction, he also says the same thing. He says we should redirect all our tendencies in the service of Krishna. If we have an urge to speak, we should not gossip or criticize others. Instead, we should use this capability of speaking to sing the Hare Krishna mantra, to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, or to preach. And if we have a desire to eat food, we should redirect that desire to eating food by cooking nice prasadam, offering it to the Lord, and serving it to the devotees. And if you have a desire for sex, then we should redirect it by raising Krishna conscious children, And because in the Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says in chapter 7, verse 11, that that karma, which is not contrary to dharma, is also me. That's what Krishna says, that dharma viruddho aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharadarshaba. So I am also that, I am that desire or that karma which is not contrary to dharma. So if sex is utilized to raise children who are Krishna conscious, then that is also glorious. So and we've heard of this concept of yukta vairagyam, which is not, we should not destroy our desire, but we should redirect it and offer it to Lord Krishna. So in the Bhagavatam 11, Canto 11, chapter 2, verse 52, the translation says that we are not forbidden to use a particular object in the Lord's service, but we should use everything that we have in the service of Krishna, and that is Yukta Vairagya. And we should not use it for our own sake, but we should use it for in the service of Krishna. So having said all this, I'll go through some practical tips that I heard in many of the classes. Classes like by Amarendra Prabhu and Gaurang Prabhu and others. So, sometimes we may have stimulating agents like, like the cell phone is a stimulating agent. Certain apps may be very addictive. Um, um, we may be attracted to movies or the news or something like that. And if we find that, these things are stimulating us or leading us in the wrong way, we should replace this by uh, by either by exercising, walking, and occupying the senses more positively. Um, so we have to pay attention to ourselves. Maya is tricky, and we have to be conscious of that. Gaurang Prabhu talks about becoming an expert boatman. So he says, just as a boatman through experience becomes skilled at navigating waves and going through heavy currents, similarly in our sadhana, we won't be good at it. We'll only gradually get better at it, but we have to stay at it. We have to keep trying, and our muscles will eventually get built, and we'll get better at our sadhana. Hearing and chanting, we have already talked about this. The hearing and chanting is the real nourishment. Krishna Katha, Kirtan is a good way of exhausting our sense gratification. It is also a good way of, dancing for the Lord is a good way of expending our energy in the service of the Lord. Sanatan Goswami, in his prayer, says that we have to treat the Srimad Bhagavatam as a true friend, as a true guru, and as a compass. And we should do daily study as a practice. And it doesn't matter what we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Pick up any chapter, any verse. If we read it, that will help us, fight our material conditionings. And finally, finding the higher beauty all around us. The world is so beautiful. Nature is so beautiful. All this is Krishna. If you read chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, everything around us is Lord Krishna. So we want to fill our senses proactively with Krishna conscious input, seeing Krishna everywhere in everything that we see amongst people that we deal with, seeing the good qualities in them. That is Krishna. Listening to good music, that is Krishna. Doing darshan of the deities, like Nupur was sharing Radha Murlidhar's deities. They were so beautiful. That is Krishna. And listening to Shastra, reading Shastra, the poetry there is so beautiful. There is so much nice stuff there. So let's find Krishna all around us. That's another practical strategy to use to to fight against sense gratification. So in summary, it's very easy to summarize this whatever I said today is instead of resisting, we just have to redirect. We just have to redirect our senses in the service of Krishna, and that's the only way to really deal with this. And then to and aspire to be true Vaishnavas who can control their senses by redirecting them to in Krishna's service. So that's all. That's all I had. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was a very very good thing for me to do because I needed all these things. I needed to hear all these things. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhyaśa kripa. If there are any questions, comments, criticisms, I'm happy to take them. Anything.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, wonderful, wonderful class. I loved the fact that you had so many anecdotes from Srila Prabhupada and from the Shastras, Ramayana and Vishwamitra, and of course the initial reading of the verses by Rishabdev Prabhu also. That is great, Prabhu. Thank you very much and very nourishing class. I just wanted to share a few things. So, one thing is that you mentioned that we need to redirect. Now, one thing I found over the years of practicing is that some of the proclivities, some of the desires that we have, it is tough to redirect them in Krishna service. For example, right, like I am one like I personally have I have a desire for thrill. I love thrill activities, like physically thrilling activities. Like for example, few of us we went to Six Flags and for amusement parks. One example. So I like such thrilling activities. Of course, I get that intellectual thrill through Shastra, through discussions and things like that. That is there. But then when it comes to that physical thrill, I find it tough to redirect it in Krishna. So that is one thing that I've observed. And it's and I've been thinking about this, and Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu and we have spoken this many times. Uh, Gita, interestingly, it says sense gratification is something that needs to be curbed. But the same Gita says that there should also be leisure. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Yukta swapnavabodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. So that verse says that there should be, moderate eating, like not eating too much, not eating too less. There should be leisure. Yukta ahar, ahar is eating, vihar is recreation. Then, what else? The four, five things it mentions. But basically, leisure is there, and leisure is considered like an important thing to keep your mind peaceful. So I just wanted to understand if you have any thoughts on this, leisure versus sense gratification, and what to do if there are certain desires that are very difficult to dovetail, Like I'll tell you, like this thrill, I thought, okay, let me try to at least find out what Prabhupada has written or what, is if there is anything in the Shastra about thrill. Right. And one of the only significant hits I found when I was searching Vedabase was uh, Arjuna is remembering. So when I think this is in the first canto when Yudhishthir Maharaj comes and he is dejected in front of Arjuna. Like Yudhishthir Maharaj is returning from Dwarka, I think, and then he's dejected in front of Arjuna, and then Arjuna sort of starts. He starts asking, "Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened." And although he knows that, the Yadu dynasty is not going to, Krishna is going to return and everything to his abode, still, Yudhishthir Maharaj, like Arjuna knows that that is why Yudhishthir is dejected. But still, there is that conversation that happens. And then Arjuna is remembering his interactions with Krishna. And there at one in one verse he says that I'm remembering that conversation, the instructions that Krishna gave me on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and I'm feeling thrilled because of that. That is the only, significant place where I even found the word thrill. So yeah, anyway, my just coming back to my original question, how do we differentiate between leisure and sense enjoyment? Because leisure is something that is okay to do,
Yeah,
like as per Gita, but sense enjoyment is not. So
yeah,
Mataji is saying dance for Krishna. नहीं Mataji, dance में, I mean, I'm not saying dance में मजा नहीं आता. It is there. There is a lot of thrill in dancing, but then yeah, I mean it requires a lot of physical effort.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. No, I think thrill is an interesting thing, which is I actually don't have. I can only suggest some ideas, Prabhu. So I've been looking at this group that goes on long walks, um, and they go on very very intense walks, and they go. These are spiritual journeys. So they go for 7 days and they walk like 30 to 40 miles a day.
Hmm.
This is in the, in Spain, there is a famous spiritual path. I forget the name now. It'll come to me. And then in Japan also there is a spiritual path. And then, so they walk there for 7 days. And there are people who walk 40 days on these paths, in these
Hmm.
paths.
Hmm.
Um, and, if you're a seeker of thrill, my mother is on the call and she will talk to you about Char Dham Yatra.
Hmm.
If you decide to go to Chardham Yatra, she says it's extremely thrilling because you don't know if the bus is going to survive or not because you're going at the edge of these roads,
Hmm.
and so they are extremely thrilling, but they may be also dangerous. But Chardham is another. These are places that we can all go and see. See where the Lord has been, and and see go to these holy places. That was the first one. The second point about you about vihar, I definitely have an opinion on this. This is not from the shastras or anything, but the body, I sincerely believe that the body is a temple that has been given to us by the Lord in His service. And so the Sri Vaishnavas actually, that's why they anoint themselves in six different places in the body. Even in my tradition, as a Smartha tradition, we anoint ourselves in one, two, three, four arms, the chest, all over. We anoint ourselves with basma, with the sacred ash. It's because it's a temple. The body is a temple. It's meant to be used in the service of the Lord. And if it's meant to be used in the service of the Lord, the body does need to relax. Just as any machine, you have to give it some time to rest. You have to, you have to oil it. You have to, service it, and then continue using it because it is not about, you know, running it to the ground. People sometimes buy. I have friends who buy cars and then they run it to the ground. They won't even change oil. But but if you want to really utilize the car, you have to change oil on a regular basis, do all the maintenance because it's the long-term utilization of this machine that God has given us in His service. That's what really matters. So if you see it as an instrument of God, then we will take good care of it, and good care includes rest and leisure. Just
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any other? So this was very very useful for me. The doing this preparing for this was extremely useful for me because it's very very instructive. Obviously, I struggled a lot because it's not something that it felt disingenuous. It felt insincere to even say these things, but in the service of Krishna, I'm hoping that I'm hoping that it's okay to say these things.
You're definitely being humble, and it's a journey for the devotee who prepares for the class also.
Yes, yes,
That is the whole idea. So,
definitely.
but yeah, you have a lot of wisdom and you've seen the world. You've lived definitely more than most of us on this call. So you have definitely a lot of wisdom to share, and which is very helpful and nourishing for us, I feel. Yeah, and just one other thing, or maybe I let others chime in if there are any other questions, thoughts.
Not a question, Hare Krishna. Just to add to what we were discussing before, that would be horror. So Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Jagannath Prabhu, you also mentioned in verses that Krishna uh, says, "Who obtains me? Not someone who eats very less, not someone who sleeps very less. It's someone who maintains balance." So very much in line with what Krishna already said, but balance in everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, see, one of the other things that I've experienced, and this is again, I often feel maybe I'm gratifying myself. Sometimes I feel no, I need to do this. So I'm not an early riser. And for a long time, I had this kind of, I wouldn't say this openly. I wouldn't say this openly in front of anyone except those who are very close to me. And there was somewhere inside me, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Maybe something is wrong with me that I'm not able to rise early in the morning. And the thing is, even if I do rise early in the morning, it sort of affects my whole day. And this is not, it's not that I haven't tried sleeping early again. I have done that. Yet, it somehow doesn't just work for me. And now I'm sort of, in the recent years, I've come to terms with it. And, after talking to, these senior Vaishnavas, I've come to understand that, okay, there is nothing inherently wrong in not being an early riser, right? And if it keeps me productive to, okay, take my time to rest up, if it keeps me productive in my work, in my sevas, then sure, why not? If it keeps me sane, level-headed, then why not?
Jagannath Prabhu, it made me guilty also in the beginning when I started being on this path, that I kind of wake up at 4 a.m. because when you come back from work, you cook, and by the time you get done, it's 9:30. Get children to sleep and get ready. So it was difficult to wake up early. But then I listened to a class, and this question was asked, and the answer was that as long as you don't drop what you're supposed to do, start your chanting, do all the process, go through the process, don't stop because you woke up late. Now I'm not going to do anything now. Not like, maintain that. And so
Yeah.
then that guilt went away when I after I listened to that. And one thing that I don't have control on is, even at this age, is that remember you mentioned in one of the other classes that sweets. I have a sweet.
Mm.
If the box of sweets is sitting in the house, until I finish it, I won't rest. It still happens. I mean, in younger age, it used to be. There was one time I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with sweets in younger age. But even now at this age, I can't eat that much. But if I have a box of sweets, until I finish it, I can't rest. But then we decided that in every week in the groceries we'll bring sweets, but now we don't bring. Only on occasionally we bring it. So don't even bring it. So if I don't bring them, I'm fine. I don't feel like, I don't have craving. But if sitting in the house, so that one thing that I have to get over. It's it's kind of uncontrolled when it's there in the house.
Yeah, I guess such things, they it's difficult, as Krishnan Prabhu mentioned. It's not easy to overcome, yeah, like it's not easy to transcend these things based on our own willpower.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some grace it takes some param drishtva nivartate, as Bhagavad Gita says. It says like the taste for sense objects will never go away. But when one experiences a higher taste, then that automatically goes away. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true, actually, when there's a grace
Uh,
and big hurdles, big, these kind of cravings can be stopped when there's a grace, which I've experienced personally. But yeah, thank you, Krishna Prabhu. This was amazing class, very nourishing, as you said.
yeah,
Wonderful class.
we all have our weaknesses, and we all, thank you for sharing this. And then we all have our, some we may be able to admit, some we may not be able to admit, but we all have our weaknesses. And then they crop up, the minute you feel like like Maharaj said, that the minute you feel that you've accomplished something, then it'll raise its head again. It'll raise its head in some other form. In fact, there is one class that I heard. I can't remember now where it was, but Maharaj, I believe, said that it was Ekadashi day, and at one of the yatras, and Maharaj said that if you're, are you all keeping your Ekadashi vrat? If you feel very, very proud of your Ekadashi vrat, then go and eat something. Because
Mhm.
that pride is actually worse than actually eating for Ekadashi.
That's true. That's true. Whenever you do pride of any kind, actually, the very next day it breaks.
Right.
And Krishna says, my father used to say, he used to do Gita part every day. He used to say all the time that, in Hindi, that Abhiman Bhagwan ka खुराक है. So he eats for food, Abhiman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So whenever we feel proud of anything, I have experienced personally also, very next day, something will happen that nothing, you don't have that anymore. So there is nothing to be.
There's nothing else. Any other thoughts? Or there's
Hare
nothing.
Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna, Prabhuji. Hari
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, sorry, I actually missed like pretty good chunk of the class because of some work meetings, but like the part that I heard, I think I really resonated with what you mentioned about redirect versus resist. That's this ties very well with like, because most of the time when we are trying to resist, I feel like it only gets like more and more stronger. Like um the way the mind works, it is so against like how it's up we I expect it to work. um and what you mentioned about like the verses that you quoted from Nectar of Instruction, I that extremely resonated with me. And even the discussions that we are having about like the desires and like the tendency to like wanting to enjoy. um Earlier I think I was like fighting a lot to be the ideal candidate, like the most ideal in all behaviors. But then that just doesn't exist. And I think Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu actually spoke about this a little bit in the last week as well, where he was like, there is a bridge between mental work that like mental work that we need to do from where we are physically, mentally, psychologically situated to where we want to go. And if we don't do that work, and if we try to jump too quickly, that is always like a recipe for disaster. And I think this discussion kind of like also points to that same fact. I also reverberate with what Jagannath Gopal Prabhu said about, for us to like overcome these. Like I also really think we need grace. I've had these episodes in my life where there is like something extremely bothering me for years and years, and one day I just go and be like, Krishna, I'm not able to fight this anymore, and the next day is just like gone. I don't even know where it came from, and it's just very, very miraculous. So I'm looking forward to re-listening to the entire lecture, Prabhu. But thank you so much for touching on a lot of practical points today. I really appreciate how genuine you are, and your and how how grounded your classes are.
There's
Thank
not
you,
nothing
Prabhu.
nothing original. It was all copy and paste from multiple lectures. I should acknowledge, I heard Amrendra Prabhu Maharaj. I heard many classes of Radhanath Maharaj. Then Gaurang Prabhu, and then Lekha Mataji. This will interest you. I also heard. Yeah, actually, Satya and I both have been listening to Dr. Venkatesh, who is a Sri Vaishnava scholar. He's extremely,
Yeah,
he's extremely good.
yeah,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
in fact, even today I heard a talk of his, and some of the
Yeah.
gurus I picked it up from his class. So it's all copy paste from everywhere.
Yeah. Still, Prabhu, it takes a lot to be able to digest it in and give it out. Like it's not really copy paste. It's copy, post process, pre process, and then paste. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just today, I read a purport in which Prabhupada very specifically writes that, yeah, this is what he writes. He says, revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. But Prabhupada writes something very important here. But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. So yeah, Prabhupada is writing these, just doing hearing and chanting is very nice, but that will not give us love of God. Love of God will eventually come from Krishna's mercy only.
Yes.
So anyway, so yeah, any other
Prabhu, can
thoughts?
I ask a question regarding that? Sorry, I'm in a grocery store. Hopefully, it's not too loud.
No, no worries, Mataji,
No,
please
no,
go
no,
ahead.
please go ahead.
Yeah. So, when you say it depends completely on the mercy of the Lord, does it still mean that like he also looks at like the kind of efforts that we take? Um, and yeah, I was just wondering if it's like costless in the sense it's truly costless, or it checks our desires, the efforts that we take.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. It is causeless in the sense that it is like how should I put it? It is causeless in the sense that uh, one way to look at it is we might put like like let's say you have to get a Rolex watch, like what Krishnan Prabhu was mentioning, such a nice example at his workplace. You have to get a Rolex watch. Now, if you get that Rolex watch in, whatever thousands and thousands of dollars, that is one thing, right? But if you were to get that same Rolex watch, let's say in $100 or maybe even $500, then you'll be like, wow, this is so amazing. I'm getting something which is of the value of, several thousands of dollars in just $100. So I feel the causelessness in bhakti is like that. It's like the reward that we get, love for Krishna, that is something you cannot really put a price tag on, in the sense that you might, we might strive for years and years and lifetimes together, but still that will not be enough to, for lack of a better term, purchase that love of God. But Krishna is giving that to us, even with little effort done out of sincerity. And of course that little effort might mean a lot to someone, but then still like if you compare that, even an effort of multiple lifetimes, if you compare that with the reward that we are getting, which is priceless. You can't really compare that with anything in the material, but let alone our teeny weeny efforts. Then that is when, the causelessness sort of starts making sense. This is how I understand it. This is again a very theoretical understanding, but then yeah, that is what I've heard from devotees, from realized souls, is that this gift of Krishna consciousness, when one experiences love of God, it is just like nothing else, that
Mm.
Dhruv Maharaj also says, na, I was looking for glass, but I found diamonds.
Yeah.
So the effort that he put, he was just expecting, pieces of glass out of it, so to say.
Mm.
But then the
Mm.
value of what he got was like a diamond. So that is how I understand it. Anybody?
Prabhu, this was our first quality also. Kripalu, kind
Yeah.
mercy without any reason. Yeah, we discussed this very first quality of Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it is causeless. Definitely, it is causeless, but then
Mm. Mm.
it is not cheap.
Hmm.
Mm.
It is causeless,
One,
but it is not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, Prabhu. Thank you. Excellent explanation. Thank you very much, Hari Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, dear devotees, if no other thoughts, we can wrap up here. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. शील प्रभुपाद की जय. His Grace Krishnan Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. See you all next Tuesday, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna.